I'm joined by George Atallah from the NFLPA to discuss the communications challenges that he manages in his role, especially during the current NFL lockout. So, George, the first question that's obviously on everyone's mind is who do you think is more dreamy, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady?
I've got to go with Tom on that one. Love me some Aaron Rodgers as well. Had a chance to obviously spend some time with both of them, but Tom with that hair, it just gets me every time.
They're both attractive mammals, though, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yes.
seriously, give us some kind of insight into the latest and greatest and where the NFLPA is in negotiations with the league, and maybe a little bit about why you're seeking about $700 million in damages stemming from the dispute over the broadcast revenue with the league.
Well, the broadcast revenue hearing was yesterday, so that's the latest, absolute latest, and not necessarily greatest. But that's kind of the latest news that's happened. The players and the league were in Minnesota yesterday talking about the breach of contract that the NFL had with the TV contracts, and as it related to their fiduciary obligation to the players. So the players really the main ask is for that $4.5 billion in TV money to be put in escrow so that the league doesn't have access to it during the lockout. And one of the great quotes yesterday from the hearing came from the NFL's lead lawyer, Greg Levy, who said, well, we weren't going to actually use that money. We just wanted the players to think that we were going to use that money in a lockout. So, this whole thing has gotten a little bit absurd, I got to be honest with you. But, the players just at the end of the day really are focused on getting back on the field and doing whatever they can to get to playing football.
Yeah, and it seemed the judge was pretty disillusioned that you guys were even there, that the expectation in his mind was that this should be pretty cut and
Resolved.
dried and resolved. Exactly. Big picture, when you're looking at the argument that the NFLPA is trying to frame, where is your argument, I guess, superior to the NFL's argument? Why does it make more sense?
They're trying to shut the game down, and we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that we can play football. And I think at the very core, a lockout is defined by an employer closing the doors on a group of employees that are willing and able to work. And this day and age, we've got a ton of strategies and capabilities to try and do what we can as an association to advise the players on what the best options are for them to get back on the field. And you saw some stories this week about the league even wanting to shut down entirely if the lockout wasn't upheld in court. So you've got one group, this is where we are right now. You've got one group of people that's suing to play football or that's in court to try to play football. And you've got another group of people that's suing to try and prevent them from playing football. It's interesting, but that's at the core of what this is about.
So, as a communications guy, when you look at their argument, is there any place where the NFL, or the league, is making a good argument, and you're like, that's reasonable?
I don't really focus on what they say or what they talk about in the press. I really don't. I think, we have a singular mission and we have a singular focus, and that's to exert all of our energies and exert all of our attention on doing what we can to get the players, not just the players' message out, but really to work with players to help them figure out how to get back on the field. So nothing that the league says, nothing that the league does is going to prevent us from being focused on that. And I think you look at a lot of the things that they say, and you start to wonder the documents don't match up with the sources, and the actions don't match up with the words. So that's why I don't really spend a lot of time focusing, reading, analyzing, whether it's their tweets or their comments or, their posts or any of that stuff.
Okay, so I've done a pretty significant amount of sports public relations, and I've also spent a good amount of time doing labor communications, but typically from the corporate side where I was working with companies that were engaged with labor unions. You're obviously now on the other side. So as a communicator, Explain to us some of the challenges being in labor communications that maybe someone who doesn't deal with day-to-day labor communications might not understand.
Well, I think it's really challenging when you've got 1,800 different perspectives on a situation, as we do with a lot of players. We certainly have a unique constituency. We're not a union anymore as of March 11th, but certainly, as you've seen in recent weeks, the challenges are you've got a number of players that have organized their own workouts to try and get back on the field to play football, and the media focuses on literally 3 tweets from 2 players. So that's a challenge that we've got, and I'll be frank about it. Whether you're talking about Reggie Bush or D'Angelo Hall, 2 players who want to get back to playing football. I mean, at the core, that's what they want to do, and they've expressed that. You take their tweets and their words, and you take it out of context, and you make headlines out of it. That's a challenge I have, but my approach has never been to tell players what to do or what to say or what not to say. I don't think that that's effective. I think my main responsibility and my main obligation is to ensure that they have the right information and to ensure that the information that's presented in the press is presented accurately and that the facts get out there. That's my number one job.
So a couple months ago, I wrote about, I think it was maybe December, January, I wrote about kind of the state of labor communications between the NFLPA and the league, and I was a little critical of the NFLPA, and that I had felt the league was doing, at the time at least, a better job of setting the tone for the general public, despite the fact that I thought the NFLPA's argument was stronger. Can you tell me about the strategy over the past year, how it maybe evolved? Because, I think some people think of this as the strategy maybe has only been going on for the past couple months, where I'm sure you were talking about this a year, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And also tell me about how wrong I was.
Well, I don't know if you were wrong or if you were right. I think every fan has an obligation or even the opportunity to figure out what's going on in this situation. And I think obviously we've been aggressive, but there are times where strategically we haven't said anything. And I think you've seen us take a little bit more of a quieter posture since negotiations came to an end on March 11th formally. And that's because fans can figure out for themselves what's happening and the documents. And part of the only nice thing about litigation as it relates to the public perception of it, everything's laid out right there in front of you. And if you take the time to even look at what comes out of the courtroom, it's not difficult to figure out what's going on. And I think since March of 2009 and May of 2009, when I officially took this position, it was primarily to define what's really happening, and it's been a fact-based campaign, for lack of a better term. And I don't know that you always, quote-unquote, win with that approach, because you have to always take the high road. You can't get involved in the back and forth, he said, she said, too many times. But like I said, we've had a singular focus on making sure that players have the right information. And now it's shifted to see for yourself. It is what it is, and here are the facts, and people can make their own decisions.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, I think my biggest concern was that Roger Goodell has really done a good job of positioning him as kind of the leading, I would say, sports league administrator in the world. And I kind of felt like the marquee stars, the people that fans really want to hear from at the time, and again, this is going back maybe a quarter, weren't standing up. However, flash forward to today, and it would seem like the NFLPA, or whether it's the players individually, based on what you were saying before, is doing a much better job of getting those marquee stars to stand up, communicate with a consistent message. So what do you think in your mind has been the key? Because you seem like you're in a much stronger position now. Is it a function of the courts? Because you had said maybe it's a wait and see and that the information's right there now? Or are you simply the smartest man on the planet?
The latter, obviously. I'm clearly the smartest man on the planet. No, but none of this happens overnight. It takes a long time to establish, like I said, a fact-based approach like we've had. And the one thing I'll disagree with you is we've had star players step up over the course of the last 2 years. When we were talking about the dangers of an 18-game season, it was Ray Lewis and Tom Brady that spoke up against an 18-game season. When you talked about the threat of American Needle, it was Drew Brees that wrote an op-ed to the Washington Post identifying the dangers of that Supreme Court case. So it's not for lack of a better of stars stepping up. It's just it's been a tortoise and hare. I think we have an approach of we've got 6 incredibly dedicated members of our media team here at the NFLPA. And how many people does the league have? And oh, by the way, they own a network. So when you have that tortoise and hare type of approach, we really believe in slow and steady wins the race. It's making sure that the right information is out there, players are informed, and that's really what we've hung our hat on for the last 2 years, and we'll continue to do that.
Aha! So I was wrong. Good. I like being wrong. My wife tells me that all the time. So
me too, man. Me too.
So if you look back at when baseball went on strike in the early '90s, there was the perception that Bud Selig and Donald Fair, who was running the union at the time, had to a degree really damaged the brand of baseball. As you go through this, and of course we're still months away from the regular season beginning, but do you worry about the damage to the brand of football that could potentially be done by, not necessarily the NFLPA or the league, but just this entire situation whatsoever?
Yes, I worry about it a lot. The NFL draft had 20% less viewers than it did last year. And that broke a trend of viewership growth of a very, very long time. There was a survey the other day that said 20% less people may not watch, the NFL this year, given what's happened. And I think we all have to be mindful of the damage that this situation has on not just the image of the players or the brand of the game or the commissioner or D. Smith or any of that stuff, but the overall image of what we are as a football community. And I think that that's really, really important. And whether it's health and safety issues, we've got to be at the forefront of that. Whether it's marketing, we've got to be at the cutting edge of that. And that, let's go back to the latest and greatest. That's why I think these TV contracts are so damaging, because you've got a relationship that should be more like business partners, where one business partner turned around and duped the other one. I mean, that's literally what this is. They left money on the table to either threaten them to lock them out or to use it in the event of a lockout. Either way, that doesn't do much to build trust amongst business partners, and I think that resonates to the people that ultimately are our constituents, and that's the fans that buy the tickets and merchandise and support the game. I think about that all the time. I know Dee thinks about that all the time. And frankly, I know the league thinks about it all the time. We just need enough owners to get behind this idea that we need a settlement, and we need it quickly.
Okay, so obviously LaborCom is your absolute focus right now, but when you're not doing labor communications, what is your job like? What are you going to do when this mess gets cleaned up?
That's actually a fantastic question. I've thought about that a lot. The first thing I'm going to do is become a professional dad and professional husband for a few months, because we've been putting that off for way, way too long. The hours that we put in and the hours that the staff has put in over the last couple of years is pretty extraordinary. Our mission has always been advocate on behalf of the NFL players, whether that's as a union or not as a union, as an association that we are now. So for me, it's going to be to continue to watch the players' backs in the press. It's going to be to continue to try to seek great marketing opportunities for them, and really give them an opportunity to engage with fans outside of the helmet. And I think that's the kind of positive thing that I'm looking forward to. That's the kind of positive engagement that I want to have with fans, rather than try to, explain why they may not be able to watch their favorite teams come September.
All right, George, and we'll let you get out of here with one more question.
Sure.
Who do you think is a better square dancer, Roger Goodell or DeMaurice Smith?
Well, it depends on which owner's calling who the psycho ex-girlfriend. So, I'd like to actually, once this is over, maybe they can settle this thing over a beer and a square dance. How's
And
that?
a dance-off with a beer.
A dance-off. I think I'm the better dancer of both of them. So we'll put that to test on Dancing with the Stars. Maybe one day they can have their own appearance on the ABC show.
Excellent. Well, George Atallah from the NFLPA, thank you very much for joining me and talking about labor communications and what's currently going on between the NFL and the NFLPA.
My pleasure, man. Good to talk to you, and let's do it again soon.
All right, George, thanks.
All right, thanks.